can you buy rental property with no money? Before I started investing in real estate, I remember I was working with an investor, because I was a realtor, who would only buy properties using this strategy. Mind you, this was back in 2013 when using this strategy was a bit easier, being that it was a buyer's market, which is one of the factors that helps in trying to employ this strategy. However, it could still be done even in a seller's market if the right opportunity presents itself. So what are all the factors that pretty much need to be present for this strategy to work so that you can buy a property with no money? Well, stay tuned to find out. It's Tyler Soulliere, 2015 Crew Magazine Investor of the Year and your real estate investing educator. So I'm glad you landed on my channel where I'm always sharing tips, strategies. If you watched my videos before, just tons of information on how to start investing in real estate and all the benefits from investing in real estate and growing your portfolio by investing in real estate. So subscribe to my channel and hit the bell to be notified when I post a new video each week. All right, so it's 2014. My partner and I are sitting around. He goes, "Let's buy this property." I looked at it, and it's this huge multi-unit property that was priced way more than I could afford. And even worse, at the time, I had no money because I had all my capital tied up in other properties, projects, where I was renovating them to sell or refinance. So buying any property at this time would have required a miracle, or would have required buying it with no money. How though? Sure, I had learned how this could be done, but I never attempted it, knowing that there are so many factors that need to fall in line for this to work. But after talking with my partner, he answered my questions, and sure enough, buying the property with no money could be done. So what are these factors that that will help you to buy a property with no money? Well, the first factor that's needed to be realized is to make sure that the owner owns the property outright, meaning he has no mortgage or debt on the property. Second factor that is needed to be met is if the owner is willing to hold a mortgage for a year or two or even longer for all or just a portion of the purchase price. Third factor that's needed that needs to be met is if he isn't going to hold, if the owner isn't going to hold a mortgage for the entire purchase price, which in our situation the owner wasn't willing to do this, well then you need to come up with the funds for the balance of the purchase price to buy the property and not have to use any of your own. And this was the tricky part, finding a lender for the balance of the purchase price. This is because banks won't finance the balance of the purchase price if the other portion of the price is being held by the vendor, by the owner, which would make it so that you're buying it with no money. The banks don't like that. That's right. So they won't do that. So that meant we would have to find a private lender, which we did end up doing, whom could finance the balance, thus allowing us to buy the property with no money out of our own pocket. And we did just that. To recap, in order to buy a property with no money, the factors that need to be present are no debt on the property, number one. So, as I mentioned, the owner needs to own the property outright. No mortgages or nothing like that, right? Second factor, the owner is willing to hold a mortgage. Just write hold. So this could be for a portion of the purchase price or even all the purchase price for a negotiated term, the length of how long they're going to hold it, and a negotiated interest rate on the loan of the mortgage that they are going to hold. This is also what's called a vendor take-back mortgage. Third factor, you're going to have to find a private lender to finance the remaining portion. So PV lender. So if the owner isn't going to do a vendor take back mortgage for all the purchase price of the property, find a lender for the balance, and as I mentioned, not a bank, but a private lender to finance the remaining balance of the purchase price. And the last factor, and I touched on this in the beginning of the video, this works better and easier in a buyer's market. This, as I said, is because sellers they're more motivated in a buyer's market and are more willing to maybe hold a mortgage just so they can sell the property. And this also usually only works if the owner doesn't need the funds right away, right? Because a lot of people, when you sell your property, you want the money now. So if they don't need it, maybe they're a little well off, then this is a good option for them to do, because you could help, you could offer them a nice higher interest rate on the mortgage they're willing to hold, obviously much better than they would get by taking, the lump sum of selling the property and, putting it into a savings account with a low interest rate. So that helps in, motivating an owner, a seller, to hold a mortgage if you're going to be employing this strategy. Now, here's the dirty little secret that many real estate investors, don't tell you about, when you're trying to use this strategy to purchase a rental property with no money. Most private lenders, and owners who are going to lend to you or hold a mortgage, they aren't going to do this unless you have some money or some assets. Maybe some will, but most won't. In our situation, the private lender we used, he made sure we had assets. That's the collateral to protect themselves, reduce their risks. This collateral that they were seeking, which any smart lender is going to do, is because they're trying to reduce their risk as much as possible, even though they are using the building as collateral by registering a mortgage on title of the property for the funds they are lending. So they might have you personally guarantee the mortgage, and they did that for us. They might put a second mortgage on an asset you own. I've had other private lenders do that as well, on top of the first they put on the property they're loaning against. It could be, like I said, another income property or even your personal home, or they might do both. Either way, just be prepared for a lender to do this, especially if, like in my situation, you're trying to purchase a property with no money, because they're going to see that you have no skin in the game, and they're definitely going to want some reassurances. Now, with the risk involved in using such a strategy for the lenders, well, the main reason both the private lender and the owner agreed to even do this was because we let them know our plan was to renovate the property, using a portion of the funds that the lender was lending to increase the value by much more than we were buying it for, thus reducing their risk if something went wrong and they the lenders had to sell the property to get their money back. So showing your lenders that you are adding equity, adding value to the property they're lending against is key when you're trying to buy a property with no money. So strategies like this, they're not used all the time. They're hard to come by, and this is just, I've only done this a couple times, but they're great to know how to do to help you build your portfolio. So if you're interested in learning more about this strategy, this is just a summary. There are a lot of moving parts to it, and even other strategies that I've used to minimize the money you need to buy real estate to grow your portfolio, such as vendor credits, using the BRRR strategy, using joint venture partners to get capital. Check out my 6-week online real estate investing course, Real Estate Investing on Autopilot, and you could do that by clicking on the link below in the description. I hope this helped, and if you like this video, I'd really appreciate if you could click on the thumbs up button below, and also subscribe to my YouTube channel so you continue your real estate investment education. Lastly, be sure to check out some of my most recent videos right here. I got one to my left to learn more about how to invest in real estate. Thank you, and we're going to see you at the next one.